Dispensation is upon us. A new government saddled with everything. And when I say everything, I mean everything. Security, the economy, foreign affairs, a deficit in government trust, investor confidence, oil revenues and the subsidy regime, poverty, foreign affairs, everything. Well, this is a special episode of Dateline Abuja, and while we will update you on the major stories from the nation's presidency, we have a compilation of views from experts and the man on the street on what their expectations are from the new administration, especially here in the nation's capital. This is Dateline Abuja. Hello and welcome to Dateline Abuja. I am Kayla Megwa. Let's begin with a roundup of the major stories from the nation's capital.
President Muhammadu Buhari has again defended his decision to close the country's land borders to encourage Nigerians produce their own food for consumption. Speaking at the official unveiling of the 19.6 billion naira customs edifice located in the Maitama district in the nation's capital, he said Nigeria is blessed and lucky with her abundance of resources, potentials, and people. According to the president, the only survival strategy for every Nigerian is to grow what they eat or eat what they grow. He, however, states that although his decision to close the borders to enforce local consumption was initially criticized, Nigerians now have embraced it.
Closing that border, 1,600 kilometers, more than that, from Lake Chad to Benin. And Nigeria insists that they have to impress their neighbors and other people, that they eat foreign rice. I said, no rice. You either you eat what you grow what you eat, or you die. I think I tried to make my point. And later, Nigeria appreciated it because it provides more jobs. People go back to the land. We have the land, and we produce what we eat. Let whoever grow excess rice eat his own rice or sell it somewhere else.
President Muhammadu Buhari presided over the extraordinary Federal Executive Council meeting at the Council Chamber. The Council meeting reviewed the last batch of memos from the various ministries, departments, and agencies, totaling about 41, as the administration winds down. The meeting, which started at midday, had in attendance Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Boss Mustafa, the National Security Advisor, retired Major General Babagana Mungunu, with several ministers in attendance. The secondary extraordinary Federal Executive Council meeting this year comes hours before the Valedictory Council meeting scheduled for Wednesday, the 24th of May. After the meeting, which lasted nearly 7 hours, the ministers, for the first time, did not converge for the regular weekly briefing, as all media engagements were postponed. President Muhammadu Buhari has defended criticisms of the debt profile of his administration, stating that the government did not act on infrastructure by accident. The president describes the decision to go borrowing as a deliberate tool for the government to fight poverty, create economic growth, employment, and to open the path of prosperity for the people. He said this while speaking at the virtual commissioning of 3 bridges, 3 secretariats, and 1 road project, including the second Niger Bridge undertaken by his administration. President Muhammadu Buhari has held a valedictory session for members of his cabinet, but he did not dissolve the cabinet in the last Federal Executive Council meeting under his administration. The Minister of Information and Culture, Mr. Lai Mohammed, told State House correspondents that the president has rather asked the ministers to return to work in their various offices until May 29. After an official photograph with cabinet members, President Buhari equally met with staff of the presidential villa, addressing them for the last time before exiting office after 8 years.
There was a false breaking news that the presidential council has been dissolved. That is not correct. As a matter of fact, we've been directed by the president that we should all go back and return to our offices. So it is not true that the Presidential Council has been dissolved. It's still very much alive. And I'm sure that we're going to work right to the end of up to 29th of May.
President Muhammadu Buhari has conferred the national honor of the Grand Commander of the Order of the Federal Republic on the President-elect, Senator Bola Tinubu, and the Grand Commander of the Order of the Niger on the Vice President-elect, Senator Kashim Shettima. The president also handed over the transition document at the ceremony, which was held at the State House, Abuja. The transition package contains 3 key documents: briefing note, a compendium, and a policy status update detailing, among other things, the 9 priority areas and recommendations.
The challenges facing our nation are significant, and it is the duty of the President and the Vice President to address them with courage, wisdom, and compassion. It has been an honor and a privilege to serve this great nation, and I am confident that Nigeria is in capable hands.
The Presidential Health Reform Committee, chaired by Vice President Yemi Osinbajo, has recommended improved funding of the health sector above 10%. The Vice President, who chairs the committee, stated this during the presentation of its report to President Muhammadu Buhari before the commencement of the valedictory Federal Executive Council meeting in the Council chamber. Professor Osinbajo expressed confidence that the committee report, if implemented accordingly by the incoming administration, will advance the nation's health sector. The committee was put in place to develop a roadmap towards achieving universal health coverage in the country.
The report therefore recommends healthcare guarantees for all Nigerians registered on the National Social Register, currently 12 million registered households, equivalent to about 55 million individual Nigerians. The report further recommends that the share of total health expenditure flowing through our health insurance schemes must be more than 10%. This report recommends that vaccine manufacturing in Nigeria should be seen from the perspective of a national health security imperative rather than purely as a commodity production.
President Muhammadu Buhari has written to the National Assembly requesting the resolution of the Parliament to settle priority judgment debt incurred by federal ministries, departments and agencies through the issuance of promissory notes. The judgment debt incurred by agencies are about $566.7 million, £98,526.17, and £226.2 billion. According to the President, the promissory notes will be redeemed over time through budgetary provisions.
The judgment debts are to be settled through the issuance of promissory notes, which will then be redeemed over time through provisions in the budgets of the Federal Government of Nigeria. Thus, debt securities are being issued for the settlement of the judgment debts, and the approval of the National Assembly is required for this purpose.
Welcome back. This week, we are hopeful. A new administration is upon us, and they have their work cut out for them. The new administration will have to regain the trust of a largely youth-based population, 75% precisely. A group that in many ways feels alienated from governance. They feel unheard, unwanted, and unloved. A poverty level currently at 71%, according to the World Bank. And an estimated 83 million poor Nigerians, according to the National Bureau of Statistics. Should Africa remain the centerpiece of Nigerian foreign policy in a world radically becoming more and more populist? What chances were missed in the last administration that must be explored by the incoming administration to better the lives of the Nigerian? This week on Dateline Abuja, we listen to the experts. Please watch this. Thank you for speaking with us, Mr. Kalu Aja.
How are you doing? Good morning, Kayla.
So talk to us a bit about some of these deals that we've had. We'll start with this important one from Africa, the ACFTAA. At the time, the idea was, oh, look, we want a single currency market. We want to be able to have everyone do business here. We're expecting trade volumes to increase by over $30 billion at the time when we signed this deal. Talk to us about Nigeria after signing this act.
Well, we signed the act and then we closed the borders, right? So whatever benefits that we would have expected got tampered down a bit from border closure, right? So that's really the main thing. The African Continental Free Trade Agreement, that creates the largest trade bloc by a number of countries. And Nigeria, of course, being the largest economy, should have benefited big time from that. But I think the border closures, the capital controls really killed and took up the momentum that we would have gained. We got in late. So Ghana got the headquarters. That was supposed to be a West African thing. So that again also affected us. So I would say maybe average.
So let's talk about the trade deals, apart from the ones we've done on the continent. Trade deals around the world. We have deals with Siemens. We have deals with China. This massive infrastructure deals that we have, especially in China. Let's talk about these trade deals and the impact it's had on Nigeria's economy.
Let's do China. Before 2015, right? China was like a big lender and investor in Nigeria. The story, as Buhari is leaving, is that China is no longer lending to Nigeria as much as it were because they are scared about getting paid back on their loans. So that just tells you the story of what's going on, that we have overborrowed and not really utilized that Chinese, advantage that we have. The Belt and Road isn't really coming here because it's going to East Africa. So we've lost that Chinese momentum going forward in terms of that. Siemens, it's like this ongoing thing. The distribution network, the transformers are coming, but power has not improved, right? I saw the videos of the transformers in Nigeria, but power hasn't gone up. I think long term is going to be a good deal for Nigeria because it would help the distribution, which is the problem. But that really has not happened. But the story of the last, say, 8 years has been missed opportunities because we were slow. Not because we took bad policies, but because we were slow to the market. We did not take advantage of opportunities. Look at the Chinese and the American fight. They fought over agriculture, they're fighting over energy. Nigeria couldn't take advantage of to supply sorghum or to supply soybeans or even supply energy. So that's the story that we've had. Opportunities, we're taking advantage. Even the Ukraine war, right? Gas, LNG cannot meet the gas supplies to take advantage of high gas prices. That's just a summary.
To sign agreement is one thing. To implement the commitments, the agreement required by all parties or both parties is another thing entirely. I'll give you an instance. We signed an agreement with Siemens. By now, I was expecting that our power production and perhaps consumption would have since increased from 3,500 to about 10,000 or 20,000 megawatts. I hear on the page, and I see on the page of newspaper that some of the equipment required are already in Nigeria. But have we been able to implement them? So these are real issues, beyond signing agreement and all of those. So that could be the first step. It could just be perhaps writing a business plan for a typical business person. If you don't still get your hands to the business, if you don't put your investment in the business, it's not going to materialize. So I am very hopeful that the mistakes the outgoing administration has made will not be repeated by the incoming administration, because at the end of the day, this is the only country we have. So signing agreement is fine, but beyond celebrating and jubilating over agreement that has been signed, we want to ask, has that increased power supply? Has that reduced hunger? Has it reduced unemployment, poverty, deprivation among our people? So I understand that is the beginning. But rather than celebrating and jubilating when you want to start a marathon, I think you should wait till the end. When you have been given the trophy, then all the world can celebrate you and give you the medal. 2019, President Buhari announced that the border of Nigeria has been shut. Inflation jumped from the point that central bank have been using monetary tools to manage inflation to reduce to about 12%. We went so high. And COVID, nobody saw COVID coming in 2020. COVID added to that. Inflation now went double digits, which of course it has been double digits, but in the higher level of double digits to about 16, 17, 18%. President Buhari and his team have been trying to curtail inflation, but Nigeria seems to have had a stubborn inflation because of distortion. Before government shut the border, we had no replacement for some of the items that we were bringing from our neighbors. So what is available here is highly insufficient. So that on one hand, eventually, what happened to the policy? Government eventually reopened the border. What was the benefit? We are still looking for those. But what are the benefits? We can't find them. What are the costs? A lot of costs. Inflation is a major evidence that that policy should not have been made in the first instance. So to the incoming administration, before a policy is made, please allow people to critique the policy. Listen to the best opinion, the best advice, the most workable opinion. Don't take a decision because you feel like.
Ambassador Joe Keshi, thank you so much for speaking with us.
Thank you for having me.
Let's talk a bit about some of the things that Nigerians had to face in diaspora. We saw xenophobic attacks in South Africa, particularly, and the reprisals on South African businesses in Nigeria at the time. What do you make of that situation? How has that affected Nigeria-South Africa relations? Were we able to deal with the actual problem, or did we gloss over it and maybe we'll be reactionary in a few more years when the same things crop up?
No, it's a very, people don't realize that, these attacks all over to immigrants all over the world, it's very, very complex. And anytime on your program and other networks, I'll try to explain it in a balanced manner so that people can understand. Yes, it's premeditated in a number of cases, but you have to make a distinction between those who are being attacked, and the overall relationship between Nigeria and South Africa. I'm not too sure it affects exchange and the meetings between the two countries, trying to resolve a number of things, economic issues, and and the rest of it. So what you need to understand very clearly is that in a number of countries, not only in South Africa, when the economy is going down, the government sometimes blames foreigners for this. And when that happens, the only foreigners they can get to attack or to deal with are foreigners in the lower segment of the economy. Why am I saying this? There are Nigerians in corporate South Africa. There are Nigerians in the universities in South Africa. These fellows are never attacked. But it is those on the streets, those that are selling all sorts of things on the streets, that are the victims of these various various attacks. And that's because those are the people that the South African aggrieved elements can get out and vent their angers on.
How about you, Ambassador? You've been in war-torn countries before. What are some of the things that the Nigerian government should be doing differently when it comes to diplomatic relations?
I think the notion that Nigeria's foreign policy is Africa-centered was predicated on the need to recognize the sovereignty of African countries, equality. It was predicated on the need to fight colonialism, and at the same time to put in place mutual respect among African nations. I think looking at the various challenges, because you see, foreign policy is a function of the domestic policy. And when you have challenges inward, basically you will have to concentrate, and your foreign policy will be tailored towards addressing these challenges. Let me give you an example. About 2 years ago, when the president decided to close our borders in order to curtail the infiltration of small arms, light weapons into the country, illegal shipment, and of course smuggling, and to boost rice production. You see, that was a function of domestic policy that actually affects our foreign policy. So going forward, I think that notion that Africa is centerpiece, I think there is a shift, because a shift must be done, and that shift, if I may, in the resume, say that President Buhari's foreign policy is actually concentric cycle, as was stated by Professor Gambari, that is looking at Nigeria first, her neighbors, and of course, Africa and the international community. So I think there is a shift. And that shift was necessitated because of the various challenges that we have. Look at when he comes in. 20 local government areas were in the control of Boko Haram. And therefore, he had quickly need to establish a robust bilateral relations with our neighboring countries, Chad, Cameroon, Niger, and Benin. And he was able to re-energize and put in place the multinational task force, which actually was solely funded by Nigeria. And if you recall Idris Dabi's contribution in recognition of that effort was the invasion of Boko Haram from the Lake Chad shores, which actually cleared Boko Haram in collaboration with our armed forces. And today, we have, it is a significant progress, and kudos to the Buhari's government, because people are sleeping with their eyes both closed in Borno and, of course, in the northeast. But that is not to say there are no challenges. There are still challenges, and we could do better. So that notion, I think there is a shift, and the shift is the focus on Nigeria as well as her immediate neighbors, then, of course, the region, and, of course, Africa and the world. I think in view of the security challenges that Nigeria is facing, coupled with the mounting debts, you are looking at almost over 40 trillion naira debt burden that the incoming administration will be inheriting. And in addition to that, the issue of unemployment. So looking at these challenges, we will have to restructure. There is a need to restructure our foreign policy. And I think if you to come out with strategic policies, I think one will be to develop a strategic military alliance with targeted global superpowers that will at least contribute in the development of our local defense industries. We need to put in place offsets that can impact on the development of our local industries. I'm talking about the ability to produce even the fast-moving spare parts. Look at the Tucano aircraft. It costs us millions of dollars to import them. We have the Super Mushak trainer aircraft that were procured from Pakistan. We have to give kudos to Pakistan and to the president. Of course, it was timely. They were able to come to our aid quickly and upgrade the platforms of our armed forces. But then we need to put in place offsets programs that can impact on the development of our industry, that can produce fast-moving spare parts. Secondly, I think there's the need for us to develop domestic resilience and lay a solid foundation, a robust foundation for economic development so that our country can come out of the woods. If we can quickly get our refineries to contribute, the refineries could process almost about close to about 90 million liters if it is back on track. Looking at what Dangote has put in place, Nigeria should be in a position to be exporting petroleum product outside the country so that you can generate the much needed fund.
Thanks to my guest and to everyone who spoke to us today on the program. Every administration comes with its unique style, its flavor, its essence. It tells you who it is before it speaks. For many Nigerians, it feels like meeting someone new. You may have heard about this person, read about them, had experiences with them in the past, but you've never really had to live with this person. And Nigerians have a new house guest for the next 4 years at least. Now, people handle this in so many ways, but we've been told that the most effective way to engage with a new government is to try and understand them, find out what works for them, and then try to engage in a way that will give you the desired results. And these results will determine if we want them back in the next 4 years. Good luck to us all, and God bless Nigeria. That's Dateline Abuja this week. Please let us know the happenings in your neighborhood using the social media handles showing right now on your screen. Thank you so much for watching. I am Kayla Magwa. See you next time.